crow on the wall, snow in my hair, steel at my throat, smoke in the air. Names like curses carved in the stone, born as a pawn, dreaming of thrones. All hail the ones who burn for a crown. All hail the wolves that won't bow down. Raise up the ruined, the broken, the bones. War writes the song of the DireWold.
Hvad så, folkens? Welcome back to another video. We are going to continue our journey with the world of A Song of Ice and Fire. So, let's get to it.
Earlier in our story, we saw that Robb Stark sent Theon Greyjoy back to the Iron Islands to get his father's support. Instead of securing this support, Theon joined with his father Balon and betrayed his former Stark wards by launching an invasion of the North.
What?
In this,
Why? Why the North? Like, why would they attack the North? Like, wouldn't they rather like actually attack the kingdom? Right? It was kind of Robert that destroyed them and his brother Stannis.
Balon envisaged a three-pronged approach, ordering his brother Victarion to take Moat Cailin, his daughter Asha Greyjoy to seize Deepwood Motte, and Theon to raid the Stony Shore. These attacks were successful, and the North, unable to defend itself with most of its fighting men down south with Robb, was slowly bled dry. Theon, unhappy with his position of minor authority compared to his sister Asha, decided on his own initiative to attack Torrhen Square. This in turn drew out the majority of the garrison of Winterfell, allowing the Greyjoy prince to take Winterfell with little resistance, capturing both Rickon and Bran in the process, and declaring himself to be the Prince of Winterfell. Theon then freed Reek from the dungeon, taking him into his service alongside Maester Luwin, who pleaded with him to show mercy and tolerance. This fell on deaf ears, however, as Bran and Rickon, with the aid of Osha, Hodor, Meera and Jojen Reed, escaped from the castle. Furious at his failure, Theon took the advice of Reek, killing two boys of similar age and stature and mounting their heads upon the castle walls. Meanwhile, Robb, having suffered a relatively severe wound whilst storming the crag, was being tended to by Jane Westerling, the daughter of the Lord of the Hold. However, word soon arrived that Theon Greyjoy, having taken Winterfell, had executed both Bran and Rickon, which was of course a ruse in order to establish the young Greyjoy's authority, but Robb was unaware of this. Grieving the loss of his brothers, the young wolf fell into the arms of Jane Westerling and took her maidenhead. Much like his father, Robb was a man driven by honor. Therefore, in order to ensure he had not dishonored her, Robb married Jane immediately, disavowing his previous betrothal agreement to the Freys. This infuriated the Frey contingent in his army, who withdrew their support and headed back towards the twins, with Blackwater Frey going so far as to threaten to kill Jane due to the disrespect to their house. After recovering from his wounds...
Why kill her? Like, it's Robb, you should be blaming, like... Of course he's gonna sleep with a king and marry a king. It's kind of Robb that just decided to break his oath.
Robb withdrew from Lannister territory. However, he was soon to learn that his mother's reaction to the supposed death of his brothers would be equally catastrophic to the Stark cause. Catelyn, heartbroken by the loss of her children, had visited the Kingslayer and come to an accord with him. In return for his freedom, Jaime was to be accompanied by Brienne of Tarth, who would exchange him for the safe return of her daughters Sansa and Arya from King's Landing. This move angered...
Oh my god. This is just the stupidest decisions after the stupidest decisions, like... Oh my god. You are letting go your most valuable prisoner. The shield against Tywin. Gone.
Many of Robb's bannermen, in particular the patriarch of the Stark cadet branch, Rickard Karstark, as the Kingslayer had slain his two younger sons, Torhen and Eddard, at the Battle of the Camps in an attempt to reach the young wolf.
Oh,
Infuriated,
yeah.
the Lord of Carhold
That was
sent a contingent
the Whispering Wood, right?
of his bannermen to recapture Jaime, but they failed in the attempt. Failing that, Rickard led a small group of Karstark men out to murder the captive Willem Lannister as a sort of twisted consolation prize. As a result, Rickard was arrested by Stark forces and incarcerated.
Yeah.
Following the Karstark insurrection, Edmure further advised Robb to keep Rickard as a hostage in order to ensure the fealty of the Karstark warriors, particularly in the wake of the Freys returning to the Twins. Robb dismissed this advice, declaring Rickard to be a traitor and sentencing him to death, and following the advice of his father that the man who passes the sentence should swing the sword, Robb personally beheaded his bannerman. Prior to his execution, Rickard made use of his last breath in order to curse his liege. Citing the blood ties between the Starks and Karstarks, he declared Robb to be a kinslayer, an ill omen for Robb's cause. While the Stark war effort was becoming increasingly troubled, the Lannister one was...
So, Robb has lost the Freys, he has lost the Karstarks, probably as well now. And they lost Jaime. They're kind of screwed right now, aren't they? Whew. Because like now, like Robb is at his worst right now because like he lost so many men. And Tywin is at his strongest because he has the Tyrells with him now. The entirety of the Reeds. Not the entirety of the Reeds. Some of them might still be loyal to Stannis though.
quickly rebounding. Although the Battle of the Fords had been a decisive Lannister defeat, it also afforded Tywin the opportunity to wheel his troops around and meet Stannis Baratheon in open combat outside King's Landing. Crushing the supposed rightful heir to the Iron Throne, Tywin simultaneously gained an immensely powerful ally in the Great House of Tyrell. To cement his alliance, the High Septon set aside King Joffrey's betrothal to Sansa Stark in favor of one to Margaery Tyrell. By way of comparison, when Robb arrived from the Westerlands with his newly betrothed Jane Westerling, his mother Catelyn bemoaned the fact that he had not married someone such as Margaery, who could bring a sizable force to the Stark cause.
That is so true. Like, Robb is an idiot. Like, he could have married Margaery and have won the war in like no time. Oh my god.
However, it was not all plain sailing for the Royalists, for through the combined efforts of an escaped Arya Stark and the faceless man, Jaqen H'ghar, the Stark prisoners at Harrenhal were freed. Harrenhal then fell under the control of Roose Bolton, which ostensibly was good for the Stark cause, but would soon prove to be anything but. Things would go from bad to worse for the Northerners, as their situation continued to deteriorate. Although they managed to free Castle Darry from Lannister occupation, it would fall to Gregor Clegane just 2 weeks later. After reclaiming this fort, the Mountain Who Rides was not in a forgiving mood and instead sacked the castle, killing the 8-year-old lord of the castle, Lyman Darry, and eliminating the male line of that house.
Oh my god.
The Mountain would not hold the castle for long either, for when Sir Helman Telhart laid siege to it, Gregor had to retreat, for he only had a token force under his command. Word soon arrived from Roose Bolton, who ordered Sir Helman to put the castle to the torch and slaughter all of the Lannister captives under the pretense of acting under the orders of the King in the North. Telhart was then to join Robert Glover and Harrion Karstark with the remaining Karstarks at Harrenhal to aid the assault on Duskendale. Roose played up the unbridled
So he still has the Karstarks. That's good.
fury of the leaders of this group, which made up some third of the Northerners' footmen, due to the occupation of Torrens Square and Deepwood Motte, as well as the execution of the patriarch of the Karstark family. In truth, Lord Bolton was deliberately sparing these men to act rashly, for at this point the ever-cunning Roose had begun to plot the demise of his own faction. The Northmen made their way through the Crownlands, pillaging the area on their way to Duskendale.
Wait,
Unfortunately
so
for the
Roose is planning on betraying Robb.
respective leaders of the contingent, following on from the defeat of Stannis Baratheon at the Battle of Blackwater, the houses Tyrell and Lannister had combined their forces, making them the most numerically superior faction in the Seven Kingdoms.
Yeah, I wonder how many they have now. They gotta have like at least 80,000 at this point.
Tywin, now acting as Hand of the King to Joffrey I Baratheon, sent his most competent general, Lord Randyll Tarly, at the head of a large army made up of men from both the Stormlands and the Reach in order to beat back the invading Northmen.
So they also have people from the Stormlands now. Probably the ones loyal to Renly though. Yeah. So they gotta have like a huge force.
At Duskendale. Simultaneously, he sent Sir Gregor Clegane along with a contingent of Kingsmen to cut off their retreat along the King's Road, effectively ensnaring the unaware Northmen within the Crownlands.
Oh no.
When the Northerners arrived, they were surprised by the size of the force now facing them. However, this did not kill their courage, and they resolved to fight. On the northern side, houses Cerwyn, Glover, Hornwood, Karstark and Talhart made up the bulk of the King in the North's army. On the opposing side, warriors from the houses Tarly, Laygood,
They
Ambrose,
are so screwed. Why don't they have any horsemen?
Fossaway of Cider Hall and Fossaway of New Barrel made up the bulk.
Damn.
Randyll Tarly's excellent strategic noose would ultimately win the Royalists the day, as he caught Robert Glover outside of Duskendale, pinning the Northmen to Blackwater Bay. The battle was ferocious in nature, being fought in the fields and farms surrounding Duskendale.
Yo, they are butchering the Northmen. This is insane. Like, this might be one of like the most one-sided battles ever.
It was here that Helmund Talhart was killed while leading his men in the assault. As the battle continued, casualties on both sides began to mount, with as many as 1,000 Northmen falling around the fields of Duskendale, never to rise again.
Damn.
Robert, taking command of the battered force, began a hasty withdrawal to Harrenhal, only to run directly into Sir Gregor Clegane on the King's Road, who utterly shattered the army of the King in the North. Sir Gregor then took Robert Glover and Harry Karstark as his prisoners, while his men hunted the stragglers. Although Robert was eventually exchanged for Martin Lannister, Harry Karstark remained in captivity at Maidenpool. The northern foot, which made up some third of Robb's infantry, was utterly broken at Duskendale, severely diminishing Robb's chances of retaking the north, requiring him to turn to the Freys once more for support. When word reached Robb of the defeat at Duskendale, he was left at a loss as to why the reliable Glover and Talhart attacked the town to begin with, although at this stage he remained unaware of the treachery of the Boltons. The slain Northmen were buried in a common grave close to the sea, with naught more than a wooden sign stating "Here lie the wolves" to mark their passing, whereas the fallen royalists were buried in heroes' tombs beneath the septs of Duskendale. Robb's weariness at this stage in the war had finally begun to catch.
I mean, they probably didn't lose that many. I hope those tombs aren't that. I hope they're pretty big though.
Catch up with him. In an attempt to repair his relationship to the Freys, he convinced his uncle Edmure to marry one of Lord Walder's daughters in order to make up for the affront he committed when he married Jane Westerling. Jane was left at Riverrun, with the Blackfish being appointed as Warden of the Southern Marshes. Thereafter, Robb marched north to the Twins, where Edmure was to marry Lady Rosalind Frey, thereby reviving the Stark-Frey alliance before pushing upwards to retake the north from the Greyjoys. Stopping at Old Stones along the way, Robb discussed matters of succession. Acknowledging the death of his brothers and the possibility of Lannister domination of the north through Sansa, Robb suggested acknowledging his bastard brother Jon as a true Stark, which his mother Catelyn vehemently disapproved of. At Hag's Mire, Robb sent Mage Mormont and Galbert Glover north.
Why wouldn't that be a good idea though? Because like Robb thinks, and both Catelyn and Robb thinks that his younger brothers are dead, right? Like he need a successor right now, like somebody to like take the mantle.
to reach
So
Howland
like it does make sense to make his like bastard brother like his successor.
Reed, whose Crannog men, still loyal to the Starks, would serve as guides through the neck, allowing them to take the Ironborn unawares. At the same point, Catelyn, Edmure, Mage, Galbert, Jason Mallister, and Great John Umber were gathered in order to witness.
Plus, by the way, why is Catelyn part of making decisions right now? She's the one who freed Jaime.
Robb's choice of successor, which was rumored to be Jon Snow. Meanwhile, Vargo Hoat, a mercenary currently in the service of Lord Bolton, was growing anxious at the resurgence of Lannister power. He had previously been in the Lannisters' employ, but had betrayed them in favor of the Boltons, selling out Harrenhal in the process. Fearing what Lannister retribution might entail, when Sir Jaime...
Damn, that's like a crazy sword. Probably pretty good to actually cut off a hand. I wonder what this dude did.
Jaime Lannister and his escort, Sir Brienne of Tarth, were captured near Maidenpool. Vargo instructed one of his fellow brave companions, Zollo, to cut off Jaime's sword hand. However, when Ruth...
Wait, it was Jaime? Oh no! Oh, poor guy. Yo, Jaime is like an absolute like. I mean, I saw it was a video. I've been requesting a lot of videos from the algorithm since I watched Song of Ice and Fire, and one of the videos that I saw was a video of a Hilt's Hurt. Pretty funny, guys. I absolutely love hearing about that, like watching their videos. Some of them I watched. I've been really careful with watching too much of it because they talk about a lot of characters about Game of Thrones. So, and there was a clip about it where they talked about like people like I think of Jaime and Sir Arthur Dane, and it was like the best swordsman, I think, and Sir Barristan. And that Jaime was like one of the greatest ever. Jaime has been kind of useless this entire war. Like, he has been prisoner ever since Whispering Wood, right? Like, ever since the they'd ceased the river run, and now he lost his sword hand. Oh, poor guy.
Received Jaime from the leader of the brave companions, he assured the Kingslayer that Vargo had been acting independently from Bolton orders. In return, Jaime assured Roose that he would not be held responsible for the injury which Vargo inflicted. Lord Bolton then released Jaime, sending him back to King's Landing, into the hands of his father Tywin. Thus, Roose became a full-on traitor to the Stark cause. Unaware of this, Robb called upon Roose Bolton to join him at the Twins, as the retaking of Moat Cailin from the Ironborn would require all the men the young wolf could muster. Marching northwards to join with his supposed liege lord, Roose dragged his feet, tarrying at the Trident, causing his rearguard to be mauled by Sir Gregor Clegane. Upon his arrival at the Twins, Grey Wind was immediately aggressive towards the Freys, leading to the direwolf being penned up. Soon after, Robb's men crossed the Green Fork to the eastern shore, where a few thousand Freys were encamped within the three great feasting areas, with the forces of the late Walder Frey setting up a perimeter wall of numerous wagons and carts to pin the Starks in. Robb attempted to make amends at the wedding feast by apologizing for his rash actions to Lord Walder, who instead forced the young wolf to beg for forgiveness of his assembled daughters and granddaughters.
That's fair.
Following on from this ordeal, at the behest of Catelyn
Honestly,
Stark,
that's kind of fair, right? Like, Robb is trying to like apologize to Walder Frey, right? And Walter is like, hey, apologize to my kids that you dumped, okay? That's fair. Honestly, that's pretty cool.
Robb asked Lord Frey for food and wine in order to gain guest right. When Roose arrived at the Twins, bringing with him 500 horsemen and 3,000 infantrymen, he discussed the disaster that was the Battle of Duskendale with Robb, convincing the young king that the defeat was due to the foolishness of Robert Glover, and that Theon Greyjoy should be kept in the Dreadfort following the bastard Ramsay's reclamation of Winterfell. Catelyn, seated between Sir Ryman Frey and Lord Roose Bolton, remained uneasy, thinking, was there ever a wedding less joyful? Meanwhile, unbeknownst to all those gathered, the outlawed Sandor Clegane had brought...
I mean, you're in the middle of a pretty hefty war, right? And so, yeah, like, everyone has been fighting a war for a while.
Brought Arya Stark to the Twins in order to hopefully gain some reward from the King in the North for her safe return. After the wedding, a feast for the highborn was held in one of the castles, with a second bastard feast being held for the lesser nobles in the second castle, and the common soldiers celebrating in the feasting tents, with ale, mead and wine provided by the Freys flowing. A multitude of common songs were played at the feast, with Great John Umber bellowing out his own rendition of the Bear and the Maiden Fair, indicating that he was deep within his cups. Roose then toasted Lord Walder's grandsons, Big and Little Walder, who were now in the care of Ramsay Snow. Then, as was the custom, Edmure and Roslin departed the hall for the bedding custom. Unbeknownst to the Starks, the musicians at the wedding were actually sellswords and knights, who signalled the beginning of the massacre in a rendition of the Rains of Castamere. It all happened very quickly. Very few of the Northerners were even able to react, as most were butchered on the spot by the musicians' crossbows or by Frey knives. Soon after, Sir Ryman Frey, supplemented by the traitorous Boltons and Carstarks, slew Robb's personal guard, including Small John Umber, Daisy Mormont and Sir Wendell Manderley. Robb himself had been struck by multiple crossbow bolts at this stage and stood in the centre of the hall in shock, with his mother Catelyn grabbing Lord Walder's Blackwit grandson Aegon and offering to trade his life for Robb's.
Oh my god.
On my honor as a Tully, on my honor as a Stark, I will trade your boy's life for Robb's. A son for a son.
A son for a son. But that's a grandson, and he never was much use. In response, Roose Bolton strode forward and stabbed Robb in the heart, stating, Jaime Lannister sends his regards. Catelyn then opened Aegon's neck, and in response, Sir Raymond Tully Frey slit her throat. Not all of the Northerners were killed, however, with the Great John, Patrick Mallister, and Sir Mark Piper overwhelmed and taken captive. Meanwhile, Grey Wind was killed in his pen from a number of crossbow bolts. In the camp on the eastern bank, the 3 feast tents collapsed and were set alight with fire arrows, having been oiled earlier in the night. As the intoxicated Northerners burned underneath the tarpaulin of the tents, Walder Rivers led a contingent of heavily armoured Frey men-at-arms against the Stark loyalists. Sandor fought off 3 men attempting to capture Arya, before escaping with the girl still safely in his care. Although the casualties were never definitive, Robb lost most of his soldiers that night, while the Freys lost a mere 50 men in the slaughter.
Did they put Grey Wind's head on Robb? Oh my god.
Robb's body was decapitated, and vengeful Frey soldiers had Grey Wind's head sewn upon his body with a crown nailed to it. To add further insult to injury, Catelyn's body was thrown into the river entirely naked as a harsh mockery of House Tully's funeral customs. Through the grim and underhanded slaughter, the Northern Rebellion was effectively ended. Roose Bolton was named Warden of the North, and House Frey was given the Lordship of Riverrun, at the cost of their honor, for they had violated the ancient guest right.
True. Damn. That's insane. Honestly, I think it's kind of stupid that Roose Bolton and Frey was like rewarded for this, right? Because I think it would look really, really bad for the Lannisters and like the royal family to reward them when they have done like a slaughter at a wedding, right? This kind of reminds me of another thing. I've done a lot of history on this channel, and a lot of it was started to get a bit dry, right? Like, I kind of want to react to more interesting things, so I watched a lot of history on my own time, because I still wanted to learn about stuff, right? Like, just because I didn't put videos up doesn't mean that I didn't, you know, follow the reason that I started this channel, which is learn more stuff. I just thought, you know, it would be fun to like record it at the same time. I watched a video recently about another wedding. It was in Scotland, and I don't remember the details, but it was about two brothers in a family that was getting really powerful. So the uncle and the mom to the King of Scotland. The king was like a kid, and this family with these brothers was getting a bit too powerful, so they arranged a feast or wedding, and the king did not know anything about it, by the way. Like, he was sitting there being friends with them and everything, and all of a sudden people came in with swords and crossbows and slaughtered everybody. And while the king screamed, the two brothers were killed. And this was kind of the idea of like, hey, now we have peace because our rival is gone and like we can just chill. No. Every family in the area started rebelling against them. And it ended up with like, I think the king died first, and then his mom, and then his uncle. And I think the regime ended, and it kind of became this idea because like here you have like the guest right? That's a sacred thing. They also had that, and that kind of got destroyed, and I don't think it really recovered after that. So this is why I think like if Tywin was behind this, he should have killed Roose Bolton and Walder Frey afterwards to make sure it'd be like, hey, I did not order this. I'm gonna kill these monsters, these traitors. While in the background he might be giggling a bit, but like rewarding them was pretty stupid, honestly. Robb and Catelyn was also extremely stupid. I don't think this would have happened if Robb still had Jaime. So yeah, and it wouldn't have happened probably if Robb hadn't broken his oath and just married the Frey girl, or at least have been a bit smarter and actually married Marjorie. Yeah, he should have done that the second Marjorie got single. Okay, he should have hit her the ends. Okay. Yeah. The original video will be down in the description, guys. If you guys want to check out some more Song of Ice and Fire videos, I'll have a playlist up on screen. If you guys want to check out some Middle Earth lore videos, I'll have another playlist up on screen. Otherwise, see you guys later. Bye.
Bare feet in the furrowed ground, dust on my tongue, heat bearing down, sun like a hammer on my back, name I was born with, they took that. But my chains float soft like water, running through this tired soul. You can bind my hands together, you can't cage what rivers know.